Okay.
So we apologize for that. So those,
Sweet, there it is. Okay.
for, subject listed on the agenda, we will be called to the podium at the time that the item is being considered by the board. If the item is not on the agenda, we will be called to the podium during oral communication. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person per topic, unless covered by the speaker. And with that, do we have any further? Report out of closed session.
Your presentation.
Oh, no,
I guess you'd say like next, and let's do it, I guess. I don't think we have a clicker to use on this. Or I'll just like listen for you, I guess.
I'm gonna kind of fly through them. So.
Okay, do you want me to just watch? I guess I'll just watch for you to be done with the slide and then just kind of go through them. Okay. All right. Okay.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
You can bring it up there if you want. You can just click it yourself.
Okay, so the report out of closed session, I know.
Yeah, I'll click for them. Yeah.
And since the agenda has been approved.
I guess I can just listen. I guess I can just watch you. You can always point your laptop like or have that pointed towards me and just press the side button or something so I can see it. And then hold it to the side and press it. You know, press this button. I can see it move. I can just clear it out if you want. Okay, that works.
Okay. All those in favor?
Someone in the audience is saying they can hear you.
So like the volume on the Mac because you guys couldn't hear it, I guess, but I'm talking technically right here. So yeah, I think so.
And so it's like message to and Martin is saying other people talk. You have a mic on back there.
So I have the mic of the Mac on because I guess that's how you guys are able to hear. Normally it's not this way. So
Good evening, everyone. After technology difficulties, and hopefully we will continue on for this evening. So this evening we have a report from the department, which is overseen by Jorge Quintana, and Jorge does not only oversee the communications department, but he does oversee the enrollment, registration, school of choice departments, also responsibilities he has. When you see this presentation tonight, there's a lot of information. I know when our board meetings ask what would be the most important thing to really focus on. Focus on is definitely looking at the numbers that are at each school site. And then there are a few slides at the end, which Jorge is going to elaborate on and the manner in which they were created. And I also want to impress upon you all the data that we're hoping to receive in the near future, which will help us make decisions even a lot easier and to benefit not only our students, but our staff, and also everyone else in the school district and our community. There's a lot of information here, great information, as I will make some comments when it's done. Because as we move forward, you know, this is a question that we have TK at each of our school sites, and in the lower school sites, classrooms. Now, as the program broadens, as the time period when children can be allowed into TK expands, we are going to really see a lot more students than we have seen just, you know, in the last couple of years in the class. This year we had many students, and as Jorge gets to that section, we will discuss that in broader length for you to have a better understanding of what that will probably look like in the future and what that means as we move forward with Measure S and looking at the facilities master plan. Because if it continues as we saw this year, and you know, enrollment in the classroom will be less, also not next year, but the following year, where it goes to 10 students to one teacher. And then you have your 11 to 12, you become an instructional assistant, but no more than 20. So that's something. As we go through the slides, we'll get to that point. Yes.
I believe the only microphone that's working is Jesse's, because you sound far to people online. So, Jorge should be okay because he's close there, but then if there's questions from the board or comments, we'll probably need to unmute your. And not hear.
Meanwhile, we need to yell at you to make sure that people can hear.
All right, thank you, Dr. Baker. Thank you, President Marquez, trustees. As Dr. Baker mentioned, typically I come before you to speak about communications and community engagement. But tonight I'm here to tell you a different story, and that story is a story of our students as they come into our district, and they're welcomed by the great, wonderful people that are standing behind me, that are sitting behind me tonight. And also our principals, and we welcome all of our students to our district. So tonight we're going to go over a couple of different sections. We're going to meet the team. There's been some staffing changes in this area within the last 12, 18 months. So it would be amazing, great for all of you to know who they are, the great work that they're doing behind the scenes. We're going to talk about the changes, the improvements that they've been making to streamline the process, not just for our families, but also for staff as well. And then some great partners that we have in helping us do that work, some great leaders, directors in the district who have partnered with us to welcome our students. Then we're going to go into the enrollment process, and then finally the numbers from the 10th day of school. And I can tell you now that number has changed since then, just because we do have little kiddies who do enroll with us every day in our district. So first, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the team that I have the pleasure of supporting. First is Ms. Kathy Ibarra, who's a student information specialist. And actually exactly a month ago during this meeting, you celebrated her and you recognized her hard work. She has reached her milestone of 10 years with the district. Kathy started as a instructional assistant at the then Fair Oaks Community School. She spent a couple of years with her students in TK. She was also the office manager at Fair Oaks, serving that community. Then she moved to the district office, and I'm not sure if I have this in order, but she worked very closely with a dear former director, Ms. Ortiz. She was supporting her, and then with Mr. Perez as well. And then I had the fortune of borrowing Kathy when she came along to work in enrollment services. You may also know of this name, Melanie Davenport. This is a very popular name in Redwood City because she's, of course, affiliated with that school of choice process. And all of our parents want to know who Melanie is so that they can talk with her when they're trying to go to our fantastic programs that we have in the district. So, Melanie, as you may know, she and I worked together in communications because the process used to be in the area of communications. And then now she's working together with these wonderful people. And I want to thank Melanie publicly because ever since she made the transition, she is doing a couple more additional duties for us. So I want to thank her for that, for being such a great co-worker. The next young man is Jorge Avina. Jorge recently joined the district about 3 months ago. He is a recent graduate and another communications guy. Even though, as you can see, they all have different titles, but they do come together as a team. So Jorge plays a big part in the enrollment process, welcoming families and reviewing the applications and helping them answer those questions. The only bad part about having Jorge in the district office is that I'm now known as Jorge Senior. But we do welcome him in the district. We've all talked to him about education, and we've all told him that if he stays in education, his heart is gonna be full for the rest of his career. And the final individual is someone who is very, very quiet, like a little mouse. He works behind the scenes very quietly, but he has a great impact across the district. And we're very fortunate to have him in the district, supporting this team. And very fortunate for his experience, his knowledge, and just the great work that he does in our district. He's the coordinator of this whole process. So we're very fortunate to have all of them in our district. Next, we're going to talk about some of the changes that they made to streamline the process for our families and for staff as well. I do want to highlight the term efforts because we're not done yet. We still have some work to do. It's still a little bit, I believe, but we're getting there. We review our process every single week. We meet, we talk about it, and we talk about changes that we want to make. Thanks to Roberto and Kathy. We've done a lot of systems that they're now automated as opposed to being done manually. It was manual work that was taking a lot of staff time. And so now we've automated some of those systems. So for example, the very first one is that in the past, the documents that parents turn in our platform, in our enrollment platform, those documents in the past, we download it and upload it to a different system, the student information system, one by one, all year long. That took a lot of staff time. That it also required for enrollment staff to also ask for the help from the office staff at the schools. Now, thanks to Roberto and Kathy working together with a vendor, that process is now automated. As soon as we approve an application, the application gets transferred to the new system with all the documents attached that they move with the child. So it's a time saving effort for sure. The home language survey, as we all know, in the United States, all children who go to public school, they take a survey of the home languages that either they learn first or their parents speak at home. And this is the survey that determines basically the language status of a child and the services that they're going to receive once they come into the district. That system has also been automated now. Mr. Carranza worked with a vendor and with Ms. Ibarra as well to create a formula in the back end, working with our director of multi-language services, multilingual learner services, I should say. We work with our director to determine what the answers, what is required from the answers to determine a certain language status. So that is now automated, and we do check CalPATS before we process that, but it's another piece that is helping them save some time. And then this year, what they're working on is also as well creating a field in the application where they'll be able to plug in the California State Student ID number. That way that information travels with the student as well. So they're doing a lot of good work improving those systems. As I told Dr. Baker, if you're going to ask a communications guy to oversee a different area, you bet that there's going to be communication involved with it. So we've embedded some communication pieces in here as well. The enrollment platform has a feature for messages, the automated messages that go out to parents. So we've written several templates, and Mr. Avina is in charge of, as soon as he receives an application, an email goes out acknowledging the application, and the parent know that we're reviewing it, reminding parents that if they haven't uploaded a certain document, that they need to do that. And as the child moves through the process, we send out more messages in an attempt to obviously keep the parent informed about the process with their application. And as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the partnerships that we have with in this process. And because of those partnerships, we are now providing great customer service to the incoming families. Meaning that, and this is what I mean when I say one transaction working horizontally. Instead of the family enrolling and later learning about a different process or service that they're going to go through or receive, that service is received firsthand as we're going through the process. So it's a great partnership with these different departments. This is a little bit complex to explain, but the application in the past, let me take a step back real quick. So in the school year, with the exception of September and October, the district is always enrolling for 2 different school years, and that is the current school year and the year that's coming up. And so in the past, the online application used to be turned off in April. And then from April moving forward, it was all done paper-based. So that forced for families who could do an application from home for them to have to come into the district office to fill out a paper-based application. And so with the high number of volume during the summer when we have new students enrolling, we have staff that were working at home until midnight or maybe sometimes 2 a.m. typing in those applications from home. So in order to make this easier for families and for staff, we decided to leave the application open. And that way, families who do have devices at home, they can do so from home. And staff doesn't have to be typing up applications until very late in the evening for them. That caused for us to eliminate the paper-based applications, but of course, because we want to keep in mind that we are an equity focused organization, what we did is we opened what we call a welcome center here at the district office, which pretty much looks like a computer lab from our schools. So we partner with the Department of Technology Services, who provided the devices. And so parents come in with their documents ready to enroll, and staff is able to help them do so here at the district office using district devices. And then we were able to install a new software that is able to look at all the data that's coming in, and it tells us ahead of time if there are any errors that we need to fix before Mr. Carranza turns that data over to the state. That is, again, a lot of time that is saved for him, because before the errors used to come to him from the state, and that would delay the process that what he was working on. So that's a tool that's helping him very much so in finishing those reports. And finally, at the very end, we'll show you a new dashboard that Mr. Carranza has created for the administrators in the district so that they can have data ready for them at their fingertips. So speaking of the partners that I mentioned, we partner with these 3 different departments to help our families when they're coming in. The Department of Special Education, when a family tells us that their child has an IEP, we contact the Department of Special Education, they request the IEP, the family doesn't have it already with them. They review the IEP, and then they help us decide on the best placement for the child. 99% of the time, it's their neighborhood school, but there are some, specific times when a child is placed in the appropriate setting for that services that they will receive. We also partner with the Department of Health and Wellness under the leadership of Director Patricia Red and the fantastic school nurses that we have in our district. We, since we opened enrollment in November, the nurses are reviewing all those applications, making sure that all students have their immunizations up to date. They've also taken the time to train enrollment staff on what to look for when they are reviewing those applications. In the past, nurses would receive the list of students during the summer, and then the nurses would have to start looking at those applications then, and sometimes we would have to make phone calls once the school year had started. Now that we are embedding the closely revision of the immunization records, nurses are able to contact families, especially for those specific cases when the immunization record is international and comes in a different language, or if different shots are required in different countries, then our nurses are able to have a conversation with parents, guide them, And sometimes parents make appointments with the medical providers, and so they have that time to make those arrangements before the first day of school. And then we also partner with the Department of Multilingual Learners and Categorical Programs in that if the home language survey gets a little bit confused and can't determine exactly where the child, what the status of the child is, then the staff from the multilingual learners department, they contact the family, they talk to the family to help determine that before the child is enrolled. That way we make sure the child will receive the services right away on their first day of school. And also, if we have an international family coming into the district, staff meets with the family through the enrollment process to make sure that the appropriate placement is made depending on the needs of each individual child. So this is now the enrollment process. This is the area of expertise again for enrollment staff. So I'm going to try my best to explain this. As I mentioned, the process starts with when the family, when they do an application, whether online or in person with the help of staff, they review the application based on the requirements, in full policy 5111 with the requirements that are the parent identification of the parent, the child's either birth certificate or passport, two different documents that show proof of address and the immunization record. And the board policy 5141 that requires the updated immunization records, which is 5 shots of DTaP, 4 shots of polio, 3 of Hep B, 2 of varicella, and 2 of MMRs. After that takes place, then the staff goes into into CalPADS, which is the system where California has all the information about all the children in public schools in California. And staff is looking for the language status and the state student ID that they need in order to plug in into our system. This is typically students who are coming from another district that we know that they have a history somewhere else. We don't necessarily do this for TKs or kinders, knowing that it's their first year of school. After that, then staff checks with, they go through the process of checking availability of a seat available, whether it's at their neighborhood school or the program for which the family is applying. Somewhere between 3 and 4 is where you find the school choice process. If that family has filled out a school choice application to go to a different program. This section, again, as I mentioned, was done manually before, but thanks to the efforts of staff, now that has changed. After that is done, then staff gets in touch with the schools, with the office staff and the principals to let them know that they have a new student. And between enrollment staff and the schools and the family, of course, the first day of school is set for the child. In between the first day, before the first day of school, whatever that date is, since we do have students that come in throughout the school year, the family receives the first day of school packet. You may be familiar with this. We used to call it the back to school update. This is where parents add their emergency contacts, they review any new board policies, they grant permissions for different tools that the child will use at the school. And for the first time this school year, the student benefit form is in there as well. That's what was known in the past as the lunch form. So last summer, staff proposed to Mr. Epson to embed that form in the first day of school packet, knowing that all families are required to submit the first day of school packet. So that way all families see it. And during the summer in July, we're very grateful to the office staff that comes to the district office in July to help enrollment staff help families fill out the first day of school package. Families who don't have devices accessible to them, so we come to the district office and staff helps them fill it out. Families who are not able to be here in July, they have another opportunity to do so at school on May Day. Then we move into, after that child starts on the first day of school, this is where either Mr. Carranza or Ms. Ibarra, they report the new school with a child to CalPADS again. Again, if it's a child coming from another school district, we have to report that the child is now with us. And they also report the language status to CalPADS. That information travels to other platforms where staff in different departments, such as the Department of Multilingual Learners and the Department of Assessment and Data Analysis, they need that information in order to test the students and to provide the services that the child needs. And then throughout the school year, Mr. Carranza is working on delivering data to the state of California through CalPADS as well. He has several reports that he works on. This is in addition to the reports that he works on for our partners who have the need to have our data, such as, for example, Stanford, the Gardner Center, who needs our data. So he works on that for them as well. During the next summer, that's when staff performs the rollover, and that is what basically it's starting the new school year. So this is when our graduates get archived into our record system. And then when a student withdraws before graduating, then staff performs that process as well, which is removing the child from our student information system and also from the wide California system as well. I'm going to walk you very quickly through some scenarios of some of our students. I should say of some scenarios of some possibilities, right? Because these are not our students. We have someone, Annabelle, who you can see from her folders that she's ready to start school. She is zoned for the TAP neighborhood. She is a kinder. Her parents submitted all the required documents. Her immunizations are up to date. So staff is able to review that quickly and have that application approved. Her information gets delivered into the student information system, and Annabelle is ready to start school at TAP. Now this is Mr. Bo. Mr. Bo is already in the computer lab. He's zoned for Henry Ford. He's in second grade. His birth certificate came in a little bit blurry, hard to read, and he's missing his fifth DTAC dose. So this is when Mr. Arena and the school nurse would send messages and contact the families to let them know that we need these documents in order to process and approve his application. Next, we have Carlos and Daniela, who are zoned for the Road Plan neighborhood, fourth graders. All the required documents are submitted. They're missing both of their varicella doses. They're international students from Venezuela. The family speaks French and Spanish, and they did a school choice application to Adelante Salvi. So the first step that we would take is the school nurses or Mr. Arena would contact the family to let them know that we need an updated immunization record. Ms. Rivera and her staff would meet with the family to talk about the services since they are international families. Because they are French and Spanish speakers, the home language survey may look a little bit different. So Ms. Rivera and her staff would review that as well to determine the language status for them. And Melanie would be involved because of the SOC application process. And because they're fourth graders, Mr. Cedar and his staff would test the students for Spanish language proficiency, which is required after the first grade. And now we have Mr. Evan. Evan, as you can see, has a basketball, so you know he's going to love our new great gym at Hoover. He's zoned for Hoover, the Hoover neighborhood. He's a seventh grader. He has all his documents submitted, but he's a seventh grader, so he needs his DTAP. So the school nurses or Mr. Avina would contact the families to let them know. He's moving back from Modesto, so this requires from Mr. Carranza or Mr. Ibarra to check his language status and his whole records from CalPADS. And he's also a former student of ours who's coming back to us. So it would require a little bit more digging into his record to make sure that we have everything that we needed so that he can start at Hoover. So now moving to the numbers. So this is a look at the projected, the 10th day of school for last year and this going year. You can see that we were projected last school year at 6390. During census day in October, when Mr. Carranza chosen that data to the state, we were at 6520. And you can see that we have the same kind of the same thing that happened this school year where we were a little bit higher than projected. And this number, I can tell you that it's already up, and it will be up by the time October comes around for census day. This is a breakdown of 23-24. By August 16th, we had 1,272 new applications of new students. Since the first day of school to last week, when I was putting this presentation together, we were at 78 more. Out of that number, 611 kinders. TK applications, we received 303 since November, but actual enrollment is at 231. We had many families who enrolled, they went through the process, but they decided to not stay with the district. And then sixth grade, I'm highlighting sixth grade just because we've seen a trend recently. We've had a bubble in sixth grade, and that is because of one of the charter schools in town who has reached fifth grade. So now the graduates are coming to the district for sixth grade. And this is a breakdown of students who are returning to the district. We do have many students who come back to us. I believe 22, 23. When Ms. Ibarra pulled that data for me, I believe it was 175 for the whole school year. Mr. Carranza worked on this data, and so far for 23, 24, it's 116. Most of the students are coming back to us, as you can see, 6th, 7th, and 4th grade. Sixth grade, we open every single application so that we can have this information for you. And most of the sixth graders are coming back from charter schools here within our attendance zone. Seventh graders and fourth graders, it's an array of different reasons. They're coming back from up and down the peninsula, from the South Bay, and from the Central Valley as well. And this is a breakdown of students who left the district during the summer, before 23-24. Sixth graders, and you can see first graders, second, seventh, and third. These are a total of 250. This makes sense just because in the last couple of years, we've had, as you know, a decline of anywhere between 300 to 500 students for the last 5 years or so. We're going to talk a little bit about TK. This is how much TK has grown in the last couple of years. It used to be only 75 students at 5 different sites throughout the district. Last year, 123. This year, we have TK at all sites that also have kinder. And we had a total of 231 students. This was last week of TK enrollment. So these are the TK sites, and the number of students currently in those classes, as well as seats that are open. Clifford is full, as well as Mandarin Immersion. But at one point, we had Henry Ford and Atlanta Selby that were also full, and they all had very long wait lists. At one point, Clifford was the school with the longest wait list, with about 20 to 30 students. We've gone through the whole wait list this summer, and there's only maybe 2 to 3 students on the wait list. In Mandarin Immersion, it has, I believe, 1 or 2 students in the wait list. And those are the only ones that are full, and the rest, as you can see, there's some seats that are open as well. And now moving to the rest of the TK sites, Roy Cloud is full with about, I think, 3 to 4 students on the wait list. And we have Orion and Taft who have some openings, and Taft is now, I believe, maybe a little bit over 20 students. It's getting full. Very different. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question? Go ahead and finish your thought, and then I just have a question on the TK numbers before we move on.
Sure. I was just gonna say very different from last winter, when during one of our board meetings, we had many advocates, asking to open additional TK classes, but this is, very different from then, in that we do have seats open.
Yes, what I wanted to ask is where we have the wait list, the 1 or 2 kids for the different sites, those children or the parents have been offered for their child a spot at another school site, but they don't want to go to that school site. They're only going to take the TK and they can go to their school of their choice.
Correct, yes, so
Right,
during,
because we have openings elsewhere, so if they really wanted a TK program, they could go to another school site.
yeah, so for example, during the summer, Clifford had the longest wait list
Right, I remember.
throughout the spring, summer. We called, several of the families, they're asking them if they wanted to take a seat at a different school. But we do have, families who are very interested in just one specific program, and so they prefer to stay on that wait list.
Thank you for that.
And so just to wrap it up about TK, the process is going to change next school year. Previously, as you can see on the left-hand side, it was on a first come, first served basis. Families had 2 choices. If they did not get the first choice, they were automatically placed at their second choice. And back then, there were no priorities for sibling or neighborhood schools. This is why there was a lot of confusion last winter, just because the TK program runs very differently than kinder and every other grade level. And so because now TK touches so many more families, that's why we heard that confusion about not understanding why it was different. So moving forward this fall, Ms. Davenport, thank you, Melanie, is going to be handling TK for us as part of the school choice process. And so we're going to do a lottery. Families are going to be able to do a school choice application, and if that class is full, then we're going to do a wait list, and that is for the priority window, that is the school choice window, that is between November and January. So after school choice closes in January, and the new family that signs up for TK, they will either be placed if there is seats open, or they will be placed on a wait list. So moving to kinder through 8th grade.
Let's go back one second, go back on that slide, please. So the other piece that is important here is now sibling priority,
Yes.
where we were not. Likewise, so this is actually a reflection of what our board policy.
Yeah, so just to clarify, then the TK program for enrollment will now mirror what we do for kindergarten, right? We're just gonna do the same process for TK and kindergarten.
Correct, yes. The exception is that there is only 1 TK class per site.
Yeah,
And so it means that if families are not able to get into that program, they will be on the wait list.
okay, and could they, similarly to what they can do now, once we have openings at other school sites, or if we have openings at other school sites, they could go there?
If there are openings and there isn't a wait list at that site, then we can talk to families to see if they would like to move over to a different program.
So this is, excuse me, so this is where I say a discussion is going to be needed, especially when we move forward to receiving applications for next fall. Because if it looks like it did when we started for this school year, we had many children that were on a wait list, which we really couldn't serve because of only 1 TK at each school site. So the discussion that we as a board will need to have, are we going to, that might take a long time, are we going to, at a future date, when we have discussion, are we going to plan for an additional TK at each of these sites where we had the larger enrollment than we anticipated? Because I do not believe as we move forward and we get more students that we have the accommodations for all kids. So we need to look at that. Knowing that when we do the outreach to parents, but we really want to have a commitment that if we open this TK, we need you really to be here, because there are there's a teacher, there's an instructional aide. There are 24 students again next year, 12, and the following goes to 20. So we really need a commitment if we go in this direction, because I know a lot of people, when they were waiting on the wait list and they wouldn't get their school, they decided, well, we're gonna go somewhere else, we're gonna go private, do something different. So they did. But I want to have that conversation, let's have that discussion at a future meeting before we open this application process up. Knowing that as there's next year and they're 25, 26, we may have to look at, do we make one of our sites at Greenwich a TK site? I don't know, it's something to look at. The demographer maybe can help us out. I know the new demographer that we're getting, because I felt, and this is me, and I know we've had this conversation, I want to say, okay, you signed up, let's go. But like I said, you need another classroom, you need another teacher, where are you gonna get them? So,
Special facilities.
Yeah.
like that.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I never thought of it like that. But that's a conversation that's gonna be coming up soon
Okay,
that we
right.
have to have.
So you'll do some more research, come
Yeah.
up with different
Right,
options.
right, I
like
just-
station.
I want to plant the seed now so that we know we're gonna come back and do it. Because I don't think registration is gonna be happening in November, right?
All right.
November is good, it's middle of September. Oh, that's what I think. I'm sorry, okay.
So now, this is just an overview of kinder in the last 3 years in the school district. Now we're gonna start moving into the sites. Actually, sixth grade. As you can see, again, talking about that bubble, and that bubble in sixth grade has resulted in seventh grade being very impacted this school year. Moving to the sites, Adelante Selby, we can see that it has 94 kinders and a total of over 550 students. We move into Clifford with a little bit over 600. Again, these numbers have changed since day of school. Clifford has become one of our largest schools in the district, and this is primarily due to Clifford absorbing a large part of the former John Gale neighborhood. Garfield, as you can see, has a little bit over 300 students. Moving to Henry Ford with over 400 students. Hoover has over 600 students, and Hoover is a very interesting school because it typically starts a little bit over 500 during the summer, and then it just keeps growing, and by December, it becomes the largest school in the district with close to 800 students. It is the only according to our demographer, it is the only neighborhood in the district that is growing. And we can attribute that, I'm thinking, to the development, the housing that's taking place in downtown. As we know, downtown is shared by Hoover and the Clifford neighborhood. So Hoover, our demographer told us that Hoover is the only neighborhood that is growing in the district. Kennedy, close to 800 students now. Again, these numbers have changed. Kennedy, as you know, absorbed many of the students that came from Garfield and Roosevelt this school year. This is the Mandarin Immersion Program, which has its own TK class and two kinder classes. A little bit over 200 students there. We're not going to go alphabetical order for a minute, just so that we can wrap up Orion, but this is the parent co-op program at Orion. That site has two TK classes because the parent co-op has its own TK class as well, and two kinder classes, and a little bit over 230 students. Then this is Orion as a school, 450 students total at Orion. MIT, as you know, MIT has, again, many of the Garfield middle schoolers and some from Roosevelt as well. So MIT grew by over 100 students this school year. We move into North Star, which had a total of a little bit over 500 students at North Star. And then Roosevelt, as we know, Roosevelt does not have 6th or 7th grade this year, so the total of a little bit over 400 students. Now we come into Cloud, which has over 600 students. And then Taft, 350. And this year we're seeing many kinder students coming into the Taft neighborhood as well. So again, wrapping it up, as of the 10th day of school, these were the 3 largest schools in the district. But again, Hoover is just going to come up and take away the leading spot from Kennedy. And this is just, again, just to brag about the great staff that we working here, that we have working in this area. Mr. Carranza and his talent, he created an easy to find data dashboard. I have not shared this yet with the other district administrators, but I think that they're going to be very pleased. I see smiles and nodding already. Easy access data for them. In the past, they had to run reports in order to pull this data, but now this is accessible to them thanks to him. And here is another sample of the data dashboard that he has created for administrators. Now I'm ready for any more questions, and if they're too hard, I have many friends behind me that can help.
Thank you, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so one question I had, when you go back, I don't know which slide it was, but it's where you have the overall enrollment. What we knew from October in 2022, so that was for the 22-23 school year that we just had. The total was 6520 students at day. And then you had the 10-day this year is 6279. So my question is, with what you just said about Hoover and other schools, do we think we're going to get to at least the enrollment that we had last year? It seems like we're getting or closer to it.
So
I don't know if we're talking like tens or hundreds of kids still coming to us.
So I can't predict exactly, where we'll end up, but I'll tell you that in 22-23, between August and June, Miss Ibarra registered 600 students. So we have an average of anywhere between 1 student to 20 students every single day, especially during the summer. However, there is that other factor, and that is that students withdraw during the summer too because they move away. So it's
Right, so we have both.
yes.
Okay, yeah, so I guess it was slide 18 that I was looking at, and I was just curious if you had any projections. I mean, I would imagine Rick is also helped us closely, and also, on others, maybe, of course, just in terms of staffing out these different classrooms, right?
Yeah, for sure. I can also say, on the slide you're referring to, excuse me, the approximate number of 59, I don't know exactly what it was for me. The 5900 number was provided by Congress school funders and practically noted.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so we assumed that was low. Okay.
Yeah,
So we're not-
fixed projections are better than ours.
Yeah, no, right. Okay.
So it is 200 for that, so we are seeing an increase. And I believe, and I could be off on this, but day to day, the number on there, I was looking just to confirm. We're close to where we were at day to day last year right now, right? So we didn't have the biggest drop.
So we are close. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Okay. Yeah,
We're
you asked the question better than I. Thank you.
We're lower, but not as big a drop as
Right.
what projections were that they used initially, and then we used current students, we're staffing. And then we're trying to continue to refine those projections going forward.
So I think one of the things that you said we should look at would be enrollment at the school sites. I mean, some of them do have variance, quite a bit of variance between their grades. Is there anything we should be thinking about there? Like, how do you want us to, what kind of direction are you looking for?
So direction of the board is the direction of the board at this point in time is definitely not to, make combination classrooms and teachers around. I'm not going that direction. I mean, I had this conversation, I had a conversation with the status quo right now. But where I want to caution is moving forward the next year. Where I'm looking at schools where the numbers are very low and the classrooms, because contract is 50K, K1, 2, and K1 and 2. We try to keep it 45 of that. I did strike from the board that you allowed me to do that. Contract says 31, 30, and then from 30 on up, it says 31. I really don't want to play that number, not as we have to, but with what's coming in the near future from the business office and the unaudited actuals, we really need to look at that and creating the budget moving forward. With that being said, there may be a need in the future to do some combination classrooms, but also really looking at those TKs coming forward. If that waiting list tends to be similar to what we experienced when we came back from engagement, I got just the kids what we do with them, and then parents were absolutely adamant they either wanted that school site where they were at, or they had their second choice, but they were really not keen on that second choice and the revenue to that. So I would, it's the discussion we'll have here, I would rather keep kids and build it. So not to say that I wanted to look at the funding. That's not what I'm saying. I want to definitely keep status, but at the same time have those kids so that as we build, I won't be as nervous about having some combination classes. So that's what I'm thinking, and that's what I'll bring some more data for to here as we move forward, because I know this starts in November. Sure, probably about winter break or right before that February piece, we will have a good idea of where we're sitting. And as it gets smaller, I mean, as it gets smaller, I mean the enrollment that we have, not the enrollment, but the number you're allowed to have in the classroom.
For a senior for for presenting the welcome center sounds like it sounds like a neat addition, sort of a stakeholder. When someone comes and enrolls in a district, it's a complicated process. Every district is a little bit different. For the families that are bringing their kids to the high school district, it's going to be like a totally different thing. You'll get to experience it. And so I really like the welcome center, the stuff that you're putting in, the way you talked about one transaction and working horizontally. I think that can mean a lot to families that are coming into Redwood City. And I think that, as we think about welcome center, the navigation center, pulling those things in, I can see how we can start layering on top of that and continuing to really improve the process there. So I also wanted to thank Melanie and Roberto and Jorge and Kathy for being here tonight, and for the work that you've done for all of the enrollment that's going on now, and it sounds like it's continuing to go on, particularly for Hoover and maybe some more other schools are going as well. Thanks.
Thanks so much for the presentation. What that you're posting to help us understand what part of the speed. I have actually a long list of questions for that more back and forth on that. I'm interested in the that came up with just the data, which is great to have, and I'm very happy to hear that we actually have more robust forecasting than some of these other vendors are working. But also the stories behind it, and we got some of the color in this presentation tonight, which I really appreciate. But just understand, like, when families leave the district, what are some of the reasons behind that? Some of those things are gonna be out of our control, some of those things might be in our control, right? When people join the district, conversely, maybe join it in surprising numbers, right? Some of that is gonna be out of our capability to forecast, but maybe some of these things could have been forecast. You know, with additional video products, asking about, you know, their citizens, and maybe some of that in the moment, and make sure that we're holding that in forecasting. So yeah, I mean, I think this is just like an ongoing dialogue that we're gonna have around data quality, both what the numbers say and then the storage behind it. What parts of that are actionable in the district? Make sure that we're A, doing a good job serving the students, and B, have a good hold on like where things are going, not just short term, but also like planning for the long term in terms of what do we expect this district to look like in 5 years. So thank you for your help.
Thank you for your presentation. I think all of my questions were answered throughout your slides. But I just want to say thank you to your team too for being here tonight. It's great to see your faces. And thank you for, it sounds like there's some great changes happening in the department and involvement and all that. So it sounds really positive. So thank you for all that.
Again, thank you and the team for being here. Thanks to the partners, the other departments that you mentioned. Obviously, I've always appreciated that everyone wears way too many hats. And so when you mentioned that Roberto was like a mouse, but maybe that's because you're like the cat of the hat, because you guys wear so many here in River City. So I'm just super proud of all the work that you guys do and really appreciate everything. Again, always with a welcome smile. I know I got to meet Jorge a few times that I've been in the office. And so again, your work is very appreciated and it's really, really great to see you guys here and appreciate all the work that you guys do.
I just asked my question before, so I do want to say thank you very much, and I've known some of you for a very long time. And I just appreciate all that you do every day. It's a hard job, because most of the time you get to tell the parents really good news, you know, because most of the kids do get to go where they want, but sometimes you're having hard conversations about people on a wait list or saying, well, we didn't get your forms, and so you're not where you think, you know, those are things. So I know that the customer service is really important and you do it with care. I mean, I know you care about every one of those students and every one of those families. And I've gotten reports back from many people in the community that appreciate the extra level of care that you do show every family, no matter, you know, where they're coming from or, you know, what forms they either have or don't have or all that. You're really very student focused. So thank you very much for all that you do. The whole team. Really appreciate it. And Jorge, thank you for your leadership.
Good job, Jorge, so much, and the team. Thank you very, very, very much. You mentioned the welcoming, the well-being center. Hopefully that check, that $400,000+ comes in either this week or next. So they can start. It's here. I mean, the county has like, but just haven't treated to us yet, so we haven't started. But yeah, they do a wonderful job. So we're very fortunate to have each and every one. Thank you so much. You don't have to stay for the rest of the
Thank you.
Since young Jorge in the back, needs to be right there with us. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good night. Good night. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Looking forward to getting there from item 12 to the election of school timing and meeting on the board for the 23-24.
So, yes, these are board assignments for this school year. The assignment, and there is a question that might concern me about in regard to the charter school. You know, and that we've had all since we've had charter schools, we've always had a member of the board be Now, all the reasons are, you can find, lunch. All virtual, all virtual. They do not hold them in person. Campus is a little bit easier. And like, virtually, and they have it listed. It's to give them the awareness that, you know, we definitely understand that they're not part of the school district. They are housed in the school district. And as we move forward, with Measure S, you know, they are part of that. So we have to, you know, abide by it. So it's great to have representation, but you can't just let us know.
Also, we've had this committee in the past in case there's specific issues that come up. It's nice to have a committee that's ready to go, or like if there's renewals, or we have a new charter that comes to us and wants to be authorized, and that's where that work traditionally has landed.
Yeah,
you're right.
I was asking about the school assignment.
Oh.
Not the committee, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, which is what I think you.
Oh, that's why, okay, you were,
Oh,
that,
that's right.
and okay, sorry, I was looking at this, which, okay. You're on both.
I should have said school.
Oh, no, that's fine, that's fine. But I'm just saying, yeah, there's not as much activity on the committee right now unless there's a renewal or something.
Right.
So did anybody want to change
That's the
committees
thing,
or?
this,
Okay.
are you, the things you
That's
have,
the option. Do that.
have a different. Right,
So I know that we've kind of talked, well, a few times with like Wendy, I know like Janet and Melissa, you guys are part of the board. Policy. But I just do realize that I guess it's perhaps many hours, and so that is the only thing where I know, you know, again, in conversation with you, level, maybe we might want to be, so. But with that said, when do you guys meet, or how often do you meet? Because obviously, again, just because of work, so I usually tend to do committees after work.
We've been trying to meet during the school day. But, you know, if you were on the committee, that could change. So I'd like to serve for another year on the policy committee, and I would happily give it up. You know, just because we're sort of in the middle of different ones, but if you really want to be on it, then I can do it. But we have traditionally been, I mean, we don't have a set schedule, but it's typically sometime between about 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. We'll do like 2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours.
That's fine. I was just.
Janet, did you, I don't know what your.
And like once a month is what we were trying to do. If you want to be on it, I thought.
I think if we, especially if it's like 9 o'clock, like I.
Yeah, I mean, we meet when it works for all.
Maybe just wanted to, getting my emails with questions, so yeah, no, that's fine.
When does your work day go to?
Like, for example, like the earliest committee is 4 o'clock. 2:30 when I meet with.
Yeah.
And I like that maybe, otherwise, it's too early. Yeah. But no, that's fine, I mean, I just wanted to ask, but again, it would be. Never mind. So with that said.
so with that said, is everyone content with first, second, second? Okay. Perfect.
And so moving on to item 13, consent items, if there are no questions, can I please get a motion to approve?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. So moving on to board issues and seven report.
The only thing I believe is our, workforce housing, meeting to,
was on the Chamber Education Committee. A lot of the superintendents just talked about their strong welcome back to school. I think a lot of people were excited to be able to do that, to celebrate their staff as well. So, there's some other updates from the Senator Becker's office. And the
I don't know if the red mic is working or if it's back there. Trying to mic. Let's see. So I did want to report back on the Safe Routes to Schools meeting that we had maybe a few weeks ago. Because I think in the paper, a few of us have seen, thank you, Janet. And so I know in San Mateo as well as South City, their city councils have chosen to reduce speed limits around every school site. And so we did talk about that at the Safe Routes to Schools, and I specifically asked the city engineer, what would it take for us to do that? She did say there's a whole process. She said if there was a lot of advocacy, they would make that happen. What was kind of interesting is she did mention that those cities, along with I think every city, they're looking at their, I forget exactly what the plan's called, but it's like getting to zero, so basically zero. What is it? Vision zero. Vision zero, thank you. And when you look at Redwood City, what you see is the hot spots. Some are around schools and those are being addressed, but most of the hot spots are around El Camino, Real, or Middlefield or Woodside Road. So it's where we have heavy car traffic and bicycles, pedestrians. So what they're focused on is they're focused on where the current hotspots are. And where there's overlap with schools, they're doing it, but they're not focused entirely on schools. So I just want to bring that up. And so what we talked about at the committee, that there's some staff changes right now on the Safe Routes to School lead. But what we talked about is if there's interest, then school sites would need to advocate for those, or somebody would. So I just want to report back that, and Katrina and Martin sit on the Safe Routes to School committee from our group. So, anyway, so I did want to just say that. If people are asking. And so if you're interested in that, or if you hear of parents or family members who are interested, I would say they need to advocate with the city of Redwood City specifically. We could, through Safe Routes to School, do more if there's a collective interest. So if people are interested in that, they should probably just
start working with the school site councils.
Yeah, well, I would say, yeah. I mean, if the principals are interested in that, then maybe they could let Martin or Katrina know. And I would say that, to me, that seems like a great Safe Routes to School thing, because you've got the city, you've got the school district, you've got all the players right there. Because I think if the city engineer can, so I don't know if the direction needs to come from city council or city manager's office. It might be a phone call from you to Melissa saying we do want these. I mean, I was advocating in the Safe Routes to School that yes, we should be looking at reducing the speeds at all schools in there. Right? Okay, why don't you bring that up? And then the other thing they talked about is a 2x2x2 if we go to, which we need to get those on the calendar. And then, I did go to a fentanyl crisis webinar that Senator Josh Becker put on, and I think I sent everybody the link. There's a webinar, and we're going to be talking about that. I know John, and I know our district's already doing a lot, but there's probably always more we could do. And that other stuff I don't need to report on. That's it.
Okay. My kids, Ryan, had their back to school night, and so it was pretty neat to be there as a parent. And it was really neat to see a bunch of stuff that we discussed at the board level getting rolled out in real time to parents. That was getting real. So the new reading curriculum, the new math curriculum, there's a bunch of questions that the parents had about the new curriculum. So it's really neat to see that. Really nice to see like the Henry in particular addressing phonics and being more helpful, particularly dyslexia. So just like real effort being landed this year on the ground and just getting the front lines. It's going to be the first year that their Lion and Life program is a Mandarin art thread, and so there's a lot of enthusiasm about that. That was pretty cool. And I was also super excited to see the bookmark for the student-driven achievement plan. That's going to happen in October. So is the whole notion of metacognition, student driving their own learning plan for the year as supported by their teacher and their parent. And so there's really good evidence to show that that's a great way to do things. For instance, when you're talking to the report, one of the deficiencies and like things are not. We're just getting to see that stuff, like, it's getting fantastic. So I'm very excited.
Yeah, I want to thank, Anna and Liz and the staff development team and Ms. Forward. I mean, the training that we received from staff development on the conference, oh my gosh, they put that together. So it was amazing to see what they had done. All the work and time and energy, and it's being rolled out. And I know you and Liz were both at trainings for the math yesterday, right? Yeah. And at the county office, that we couldn't find a big enough space around some of the competencies. I don't know what's happening with chance after the night. But anyway, the county. So I thank the county for that, and Anna and Liz and the team were putting that together. It's amazing. And principals had 2 times to go. You either go in the AM or the PM. Everybody signed up and they were one of those times. And the support was happening in classrooms. So I'm doing great work.
Super optimistic for the faculty selling it. So.
And then for me, I went on Sunday to the San Mateo Parks Foundation celebration. And so again, they honored 3 honorees that embody their mission. So people that I forget, and I wrote it down because I don't want to forget. Let me take my notes out. So basically, embody the foundation's mission to inspire people who care for, learn about, and enjoy parks. So the 3 honorees were the Friends of Edgewood, Rafael Avendaño with the Bird City Together, and San Mateo County Parks Interpretive Division. So it was really, neat to see. And so that's my report. And then part of the report, none that has happened, but I just want to let you guys know, this Friday is our first Latino Heritage Month speaker series, and our very own Superintendent Maker will be the facilitator, or what's the moderator before we go like this. So if you guys are interested, go meet us. It's be a really nice meeting. So,
so what I did this Monday evening, I went to the dyslexia presentation that was given at the Red Shores Library. I think the one that's going to take place on October 6th. Very enlightening, and they put you through these simulations. And even though I think I'm a pretty good reader and I know my phonics and read well and understand what you learn is they're going to, I don't see how it was difficult. It was very difficult. And knowing that, and they put you on some reading, you have what you should do and what you substitute. It was amazing. And having to write with your opposite hand as they're dictating to you. So it's something that we are looking at, definitely looking at how do we assess our students for dyslexia. We know that something is coming forward the next year, but we are going to do kind of a study session and let you know where we are with everything where we're going. So I believe that next month is dedicated to dyslexia, but it was, like I said, it was difficult, very difficult. All of us that were there, very well educated and yeah, different experience. So, where's it coming from?
With that, moving on to information items. 3.1, 23, 24, about the budget and public connect community charter school and the Red City School fiscal oversight review.
I'll just comment on 16.1, 2, and 3. Connect Community Charter Rocket Ship, City and Kim, Charter School. Our major tonight is their, adopted budget for 23-24, along with their 23-24 LCAP. As part of, our responsibility as oversight for these charges, we've also included our oversight letter, for each of these three entities. Making comments about recommendations on their, adopted budget. And we will be posting bond transfers to some schools with small enrollment, and looking forward to their official data coming in October. That will help drive discussions in, this year, for each of these three charter schools. So that-
It appeared at least a couple of projections were a little high, right? That was the thing that stood out to me.
And then one of them, I mean, one of them had some inconsistencies in the budget overview plans. I mean, is it just a recommendation to fix it? Is there anything that needs to be followed?
It's a recommendation.
Thank you for those reviews. I know that's a lot.
Yeah, and credit to staff, especially tonight, you're really trying to, for making sure this comes together on an annual basis.
Definitely, thank you. So with that, moving on to 16.4, information of the San Mateo County Investment. With that, any correspondence?
We got an email from a parent about school photo pricing. And, we got an email also from the candidate parent wanting to let us know what a great job Chandra Leonardo is doing. In her new roles and something.
Yeah.
And so 18, are there any business suggested items for future?
On the first one, I didn't have to, asking about getting more details, from 5 to 7. Just was, sorry, first grade, that she was hoping for, from the session. I do remember a lot of parents in the first grade. Had, we can get in the first class, I read the data instead of waiting.
We suggest that. We suggest that we just do it.
Only there's two that have been given, one is Fast Bridge, and then the one is PPSC, which is for the teachers are using to, the kids into moving for practice, so that's what they use for. So like, teachers, there's no report that goes out for those, because it's all based on what's happening in the classroom, and then how they're going to be addressing individual students, or grouping of students for the specific skills.
That makes sense. It was the interest point was from the parent of understanding the baseline. Well, where is the kid at? How can I best align with the teacher to create a good learning environment? And then there's a separate request that sort of after the first set of I-ready tests, the data we released to parents about competitively for the question we're find out, which I thought was similarly just finding the baseline.
So is that something they would just ask their teacher about, or what's the recommendation there?
For the PPST, I think so, because that would be something that the teacher would have that information as they're gathering that information. For the I-ready data, as we're finishing, which will be the 22nd is the closing of the first term. We typically haven't set up too many things. As we provide information. So, on item 18, are there any suggested items for future agenda?
So we did talk about dyslexia. Have you been able to set the date for that? I know you were going to be talking to.
Not yet.
Okay,
But we
so
are.
we're hoping to do that in October, right?
Exactly.
And just add it to, it'll just be one of the agenda items.
It'll be,
Or we might do like 6 to 7 or
yeah,
something.
6 to 7. That, that's a study session.
Right, right. And so just so the rest of you know, we were, maybe you mentioned that to everybody, but we were, Mike and John and I were talking about, you know, there's some different, groups that could come and just talk about. You know, if it's a lot of some information.
And also what we're doing.
Or what we're doing, of course, yeah, sorry, that would be a part of it, not just an outside.
Yeah.
And then, and then I was just going to say, how about, Redwood City Together, speaking of Raphael,
That's what I
I
just
know I've had
referenced
some
it.
conversations with him that it would be great at some point to get him on the agenda.
Is he
coming up?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head, but, it is on the schedule of agenda items attached to the agenda.
Have that.
Yes, I sent him a reminder, he is aware, well, I haven't sent him a reminder, but I'm gonna do that, I think next week. I can't remember, yeah, I don't know what date it is, but he is aware.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Baker, I had some back and forth talking about the possibility of getting together, with the focus group and some point.
The 11th. It's from our names listed, so.
Are we getting those listings anymore? Oh, there they are. Okay, I'm sorry. I somehow missed it this time. Okay.
The schedule of agenda.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, somehow maybe I looked, I don't know, maybe I looked at it and somehow whatever computer I was on, it didn't give me the attachment. Okay. I see it right here. Thank you.
With that, moving on to 19, board meeting calendar. Are there any changes to the board meeting calendar?
Yeah, we, in January, I have the 24th scheduled meeting. I'm at the Access Conference with Superintendents. So if we could either do the 17th or the 31st, I'd really appreciate it.
What did you say?
This January 17th and the 31st.
Do we do, I'm just thinking, there's a holiday week that Monday.
So that's the,
Should we do the?
the
I was
31st.
gonna say, I'm open the 17th. I don't know if I'm open the 31st. That's the only thing. If we could wait, I can try to get clarity on that, but, can you guys do the 17th or no?
Yeah, no, I was just saying.
Because it's
I mean, I
not a
know-
holiday, right? It's-
No.
No, I was just saying that Monday is holiday, but.
Okay. I would strongly, can you do the 17th? Oh.
We're not doing anything. 17th. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, usually it doesn't land on a board meeting, I think I would move it.
Yeah, so.
Great, and with that, it is 8:32.
Where-
Does
where-
someone want to be the next head through the journal?
I'm good.
Thank you,
Thank you. Oh, you did.
Mine was 8:42, but I'll say.
Great, all those in favor?
Aye.
Michael, you're on.
Technical.
Yeah.